Anyways, okay, so I think we have everybody. I think we're good to go. Okay, so let me do some of these formal introductions. Tamara, right? I got it. Okay, Tamara. So now we are here for nutrition, managing stress with nutrition, and we have two doctors in the house. So this is extremely official. Dr. Jeremiah Pearcey. Did I get that right? Pearcey. All right, Pearcey. And you go by Dr. J? Dr. J is a U.S. Air Force veteran, founder of Cosme Thought Architecture, and co-founder of the National Sports Association for Wellness and Mental Fitness. With over 17 years of experience managing stress and teaching, what is this? Psychophysiology. I got it. Y'all, this is tough work I'm doing up here. Dr. J serves on the board of directors for Melanin Minds. All right. Okay, so welcome. Give him a round of applause. Okay, and then I'm going to do the next one. Dr. Tamara Beckford. Dr. Tamara is a board-certified emergency medicine physician, author, speaker, and CEO of You Are Caring Docs. She helps companies retain talent and reduce burnout through wellness training. And she's been featured in Forbes and has appeared on over 80 podcasts discussing wellness, burnout, and stress management. So she knows what she's talking about. Y'all, give it up because this is going to be a good time. Welcome our speakers.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford, as you guys heard, emergency medicine physician here in Houston, Texas. Thank God I have not had to take care of any of you all, and my goal is to not have to have you in the ER, especially for anything stress-related. I'm here with Dr. J, and we're excited about what we're going to present today. I'm going to let Dr. J do a quick intro also.
Yeah, so this is really a unique presentation, and I'm very grateful to have partnered with Tamara on this. But really what we're trying to do here is show you the balance of mind and body, how those relate to your health and overall wellness, and how what you put into your body affects how you feel psychologically as well as how you feel physiologically, so in your body. So we're going to start off with really just talking about one of the most important parts of this whole process, which is, what is stress? If I were to ask each of you what stress is, I have a feeling that I'd get a different response from every single person. And that's because this term has now become nebulous. It's been taken and it's been used in ways that are not specific to what we're actually talking about. And to kind of really encapsulate this a little better, there's three different kinds of stress that we talk about. So stress is just the overarching term to describe things that happen to us that cause a physiological and psychological reaction. All right, that's all stress is. So we have distress, which is what most people are referring to when we talk about stress, because stress is something that is perceived as bad, negative. You don't want stress. The problem is that you have to have stress. Because if you were not stressed, what's the point in getting out of bed? What's the point in doing anything? We do stuff because of stress, because you want to eat. You want to know where you're gonna sleep tonight, right? That's a stressor. So we need that. But even then, we pursue stress sometimes. So that's a state of new stress, neutral stress. It's not good or bad. It's just needed for us to physiologically function. Then we have eustress. Eustress is good stress. This is stress that we pursue. And these are things like roller coasters, going to scary movies, doing things that you may be scared to do. Even standing up on the stage today is a little bit of a eustress, because even though I'm well-versed in stress and love to talk about it, it's always a little nerve-wracking to get in front of people and speak, right? So this is a form of eustress for me. So these different kinds of stress impact us in different ways, and that is due to perception. You want to take over?
Yes. So we have, like we said, it's a very unique presentation today. So it's very interactive. So as much as we're going to be talking to you and divulging some info, we need some stuff from you too, right? So, now we're going to go into the state where we are going to imagine what's going on. So we're going to need some responses from you guys. Imagine we have Natasha, right? So this is Natasha. You have a picture of her here. Natasha is around 27 years old. She's athletic. She has an active lifestyle at baseline. This is how she is. You know, she has her religion and her culture that she adheres to and she really loves. But then she also notes that she's a caretaker of an elderly family member. And in addition to that, Natasha is also a mother of a 6 to 12-year-old. Child is very active. Now, who here can relate to Natasha? There we go, right? So one of the things that we'll hear about, that's called the sandwich generation. Have we heard about that? Where you're helping someone who's older and you also have to take care of the younger one. So some of the stuff is you got to take time off to do this and do that. So Natasha noticed that she has a big stressor that's going on in life. But I need you to let me know, which big stressor do you think is going on with Natasha? Let's use our imagination and just tell me something that you could say like, all right, Natasha is going through blank. Go ahead, shout out some stuff. All righty, sir.
Paying for the elderly family member.
Paying
For them, the upkeep, the cost of paying for.
Absolutely. So she's paying additional costs for the elder family member, but she also still has to pay for her son, activities, and so on. Sir, I saw your hand. You did like a half.
Yeah, if she's a mother of a 12-year-old, she had a child of 15.
That's a stressor, exactly. So she also had child at a very young age, having to deal with like society's probably looking at her sideways, right? She has to, like we talked about, a different type of stress, right? She has to hold herself up strong and make it through. Why? Because she needs to prove that, yes, I understand that this happened to me, but I'm not a victim of my circumstances. I can do this, right? So we have that going on. And alrighty, so something at work. Let's think about something, a work stressor that might also be affecting Natasha right now. She feels alone, isolated at work. Okay, no one else is helping her out. She has to do all the work. She has to get the money. She has to. So now she's working more, right? She's having some time management issues. It doesn't matter. She doesn't have enough time for all that she needs to do. So all of this now is compounding on Natasha. Natasha is starting to have headaches. She's starting to have chest pains. And one of the time in the middle of the night, Natasha wakes up with crushing chest pain. And she swears she's having what? Alrighty, so where does Natasha go? Exactly. So I'm seeing Natasha in the emergency department. Now, one of the things that happened with all of this is that we have this thing called burnout. Burnout is something that happens to a lot of people. Now, when we hear about burnout, a lot of times we think about it like related to life, but burnout in its true definition is related to, it's a physiological response to chronic stressors, especially related to your job. So now she has all this chronic stress because of all the stuff that she has to go through, right? So she's having this crushing chest pain, she comes in. Now, here's the thing about burnout. It doesn't happen on and off. It's not like a snap, today I'm burnt out, tomorrow I'm good and I'm going on vacay. It goes through phases. So the first phase is the honeymoon phase, when you're good, you feel like you're having an impact on whatever it is that you're doing, especially with your job. Then you have the onset of stress, where you start to feel a little bit of like, all right, I feel some stuff going on, but I'm okay. And then the third part is the chronic stress, right? Where you start feeling overwhelmed. You start having some of these psychological stressors, headache. You start having a little sleepless night, no matter what. Then you have the real part, which is the burnout, where you're depleted, you're emotionally exhausted, you are depersonalized, you become cynical. You start saying, it is what it is, to every single thing, whatever. Y'all recognize those signs, right? And then the last part is that you don't have a sense of accomplishment for whatever it is. That release, when you do something good for someone, that you feel like you don't feel that at all when it comes to your work. And the last part is the part that we're preventing with all of what we're talking about here, which is the crisis phase. So with the crisis phase of burnout, it mimics depression and anxiety. It's kind of like a bridge. So you have helplessness and hopelessness that happens, but when helplessness and hopelessness happens because of the job, that's one thing. If you're feeling helpless and hopeless because of life, what's the point of being here? That's when we're talking about those intrusive thoughts of when we're worried about depression, anxiety, and people who might bridge over to wanting to take their lives. So that's why we talk about that. So Natasha's there in the ER. I'm talking to her, and she's telling me about all of these stressors. Now, we go through this whole thing, and then we realize we do all the tests, and Natasha's labs and everything is exactly. So what's going on? This is all related to stress. Alrighty, so we're going to take over and kind of give an idea of some of the things that happen.
So this is the cycle that we see with stress, or chronic stress specifically. So at the top, you have your stressor, the event that causes you stress. So the first thing that we heard was the financial impact of taking care of a family member, right? That financial impact has a trickle-down effect. And this is one of the things that unfortunately has not really been studied in science, how a single event fragments into multiple events. So now you're struggling to pay the elderly person's bills, or maybe you're just working so much to do that now you're missing other things. You're missing time with your kids. Now you don't have enough money to spend on yourself, perhaps, that pedicure or manicure that Natasha wanted. Maybe she ain't getting it, right? Maybe she's not getting her hair done. Things like that. So all this has a trickle-down effect, which causes emotional distress. Now you have a person that is struggling with their emotional state because now they're overwhelmed. There's too much. There's too much to do. There's too much going on, not enough resources to handle it all. So now you start to experience distress. You're trying to figure out what you need to do next, right? And to be clear, your brain's only job is to really categorize information and present you an answer. It does not matter if that answer is correct. It does not matter if that answer is moral. It does not matter if that answer is supported in any basis, as long as it satisfies the person. And this is how you can believe things that are untrue. So now we have random eating, right? This is a person in distress. They've been struggling maybe for months now, trying to deal with this, manage finances, figure out a way out of this hole. And it can often result in changes to your eating habits. Now, this is different for different people. For myself, I actually stop eating. When I'm really stressed, I just don't eat. I don't have enough time or enough capacity in my mind to think about, hey, you should eat something for lunch. And so I find myself working, doing. And then I realize at the end of the day, oh, you only ate breakfast. You haven't eaten anything else all day. And so I typically lose weight. Other people do the opposite effect. Food is kind of a comfort. And so they go to food and they eat. And they eat because it gives a little bit of emotional relief from the distress that they're experiencing. The problem now, though, is that you have that stressor. If that stressor does not alleviate, you continue back and continue back. And your brain is wired so that it only goes in one direction. And this is how the networks in your brain are set up. So once you have this happen, if this continues to happen over and over and over again, your brain wires to focus on that. And now you have a perpetual state of chronic stress.
Right. So we do have a demonstration here. I don't know if anyone wants to participate. We have a demonstration of really about stress and the arteries. So one of the things, and I guess I can, yeah, I know I'm talking without the microphone. One of the things that happens when we talk about stress is that we know that chronic stress releases a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is a hormone that we need it because we need it, as part of our body. That's why we talked about the different types of stress. But chronic stress can lead to inflammation. And inflammation can lead with this chronic stress to start to have, even though Natasha's arteries and everything were nice and clear, if she is in that state of persistent stress, then it can start to damage the arteries. So we have a demonstration here, which we have some arteries. I don't know if anybody wants to have some blood flow going through the arteries here. So this is our blood, AKA cranberry juice, that we can demonstrate going through the arteries. So in here, we actually have some clogged arteries. And you're like, what would it clog with? Coconut oil. Okay. Okay, look. And you're like, oh, that's okay. You thought I was going You're like, what is she clogged it with? With coconut oil. So when you see the flow of blood through the regular arteries, and as Dr. J demonstrates it, I'll tell you what's going on, especially when people are having pain in their chest, chest pain. So the reason why pain happens within the chest is because the flow through the arteries decreases. So when that flow decreases, that person feels pain, aka stress. Now, when the arteries are clogged, think of a pipe. Is the fluid moving smoothly through, or is it like slowly moving through? So it slowly moves through. And as that happens, that person starts to have the tightness in the chest, right? So that's the slow moving through. Now, when someone has arteries that are clear, and they're like, well, why did they have chest pains if the arteries are clear? Sometimes you can have it spasming. And so when it spasms, it tightens, and it mimics as if it's blocked, and that person is having that tightness in the chest, right? So those are some of the things that can happen. So inflammation can cause, chronic inflammation causes plaque and buildup in the arteries of the heart. And that's another way that you can have heart disease. And that, if you think about it, also high blood pressure comes from chronic stress. And then also we can think about even diabetes, some of the things that really plagues a lot of us and our demographic in here, which is the reason why we're having this discussion about stress and why it's so important to be able to manage stress. And one way is through nutrition, right? So those are our arteries. Alrighty.
So, and we have different ones. It might work better if you see it, because this is really what happens to your arteries and different areas of your body, actually.
Yeah.
When you are eating different kinds of foods, especially foods that tend to be higher in
Saturated
fats.
Can we unclog her?
Great question. We're going to be talking about that later. I love it. It's like we prepared for you.
And something else that, this may be for when you come up, is that our intestines look like this.
Yeah.
They are ribbed all the way down. And a lot of people don't know that. So one of the issues that we experience when we do, again, eat high-fat foods is if you don't have enough fiber in your diet to push and kind of sweep your intestines, what happens is things start to build up in these little crevices down here. Mm-hmm. So food can get stuck there, and then it can ferment, and then it can create a whole host of issues and create abscesses.
She says, I don't like that. That's why the fiber is good to clean and cleanse you out. Alrighty, so we have.
Okay. So for this demonstration, so we have a couple of plates, or we have several plates up here. So if you don't have any dietary restrictions, because there are nuts on the plates, so if you have some dietary restrictions, some allergies, maybe not the best demonstration for you, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice mindful eating. So this is a good habit to get into, just to understand your body better and also realize that your body takes time to process your food. So when you eat, you're not gonna immediately feel full. And so it takes a lot of mindfulness around your stomach to understand, how much food do I actually need? And what is this food doing to my stomach? So we have so if everybody wants to come up, you can grab a plate, and then we'll do kind of like a meditation with the food. And I'll guide you through it. So all you're gonna do is put the food in your mouth. I'll walk you through it, the tastes, senses, and then we'll go from there. It can take up to 30 minutes for your gut to communicate to your brain that you're pregnant. Yeah. If you think that you have enough, drink some water, wait, and then see. Because it'll take a few minutes for your gut to communicate. Okay. So wait for everybody to get seated. And this is something easy you can do. And if you have kids or younger people, I would encourage you to do this with them, because one of the issues that we're seeing in a lot of young people now are a host of eating disorders or things like IBS because they don't understand their body enough. They spend a lot of time on their phones, and other things that pull them out of their body. And so gas pains, something that's very common, for most people, we understand that. But for young kids, if their parents have not told them, they may get to the point where they think something is very wrong because they're experiencing this deep pain in their abdomen and it won't go away and they don't know why, right? So mindful eating is very important because it starts to create this process called interoception. Interoception is your ability to feel what's going on inside your body. And you can do this with any part of your body. Even just me stating your feet causes you to feel your feet. So what you focus on can be very powerful in understanding your body and how your body responds to different things. So go ahead and decide whichever one you want. Actually, let's start with the cracker. Let's start with the cracker. Just take a small bite of the cracker and just close your eyes. And as you chew the cracker, notice the different flavors, the different textures, how it crunches at first, but then as it gets wet, it starts to become softer. Maybe there's a salty taste to it or other flavors from the seeds. And just notice the textures and flavors. Also notice the smell of it in your mouth. Sometimes you can even sense the smell of the food in your mouth as part of this process. And then go ahead and grab a different one. Let's go with a grape. Switch to something a little sweet. And as you bite into it, just chew it kind of slow. Notice how the different kind of juice packets inside of it pop and burst flavor. The sweetness of the grape as it runs over your tongue. Notice the sensations as you swallow and the different fibers that move down your esophagus and into your stomach. And noticing the breath as well, an important part of this process. And then try the cucumber. The sound, an important part of the experience of eating. You hear the crunch, feel the crunch. For a lot of people, it's satisfying. The cleanness of the flavor of cucumber. It's very mild, but the more you actually taste it, the more you may notice that there's actually a lot of flavor there. And as you chew it, again, just notice the breath and notice the other parts of your body as your heart beats, the blood flows. And then let's try the cheese. A different texture, soft, maybe a little chewy. It sticks to your teeth a little differently. It coats your tongue a little differently. And just notice the textures as you move it around with your tongue, as it moves around in your mouth. And then move to one of the nuts. And now this flavor is a little different, and nuts tend to be higher in different kinds of fats. And so you can notice that it is a little different after you smash it, after you feel it separate. The oil starts to spread a little bit, and it lingers Notice the different bits that move around your mouth. And then as you swallow, notice how it feels a little different when it goes down the esophagus. Okay. So this is a unique way to eat. And when you eat this way, you spend a lot more time actually enjoying the experience than you do just filling your stomach. And so this is a way that you can slow down your eating. So especially if your intent is to lose weight or to even eat healthier by not overeating. This can be an important process. And the more time you actually spend enjoying your food, the less time you'll be thinking about how you want more. Because the satisfaction of the present moment in what you're doing tend to overshadow what you anticipate you will want in the future.
How many of you guys noticed that as you started to slow down your eating, you started realizing how fast you eat on a regular basis? Like how many people realize 1, 2, 3, chew and swallow? Right? I was watching, we were like, notice the eating, and some people were like, man, I already swallowed the food. But in this slowing down, like we release all of those beautiful hormones. And that's one of the things about our body. Our body is really filled with hormones. And a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to really indulge in some of these hormones, right? So the pleasure hormones, the hormones for us to feel full, we're not even allowing that to get released. We're like on to the next, and we eat, especially during times of stress. Like this is like that quick part. And I'm saying this to you as it happens to me. Like I said, I work in the ER. At times I get like this much time to eat and like I'm shoveling stuff down, but then I have to also be mindful. Like, wait, I need to take time, because if I am not at my best, then how can I take care of you guys to be at your best, right? And it's the same for you. If you aren't at your best, then how can you take care of all the things that happens within your life? And this is part of why mindful eating, and mindfulness is something that can be done in any portion of your life, but we wanted to demonstrate this within the eating part, because nutrition is so important and mindfulness is so important. And these are two things that we often don't pair together, because we're just like eating just to get over it and then just move on, right? So Dr. J has this beautiful list that we were able to put together for that. It actually breaks down into the word leader. And so we're gonna go through the different portions of mindful eating, some simple rules for healthy eating. All right.
Yeah, so one of the problems with mental health, so if you are a mental health practitioner, this is something that may help you in your own practice, is that words don't mean anything. Words mean nothing other than what meaning you give them, which also means we give different words different meanings, right? So understanding that simplifying things is extremely important in mental health. At this point, the word mental health or the term mental health doesn't mean anything, because now people have used it in varieties of ways that we cannot all agree on what it means. And for some people it's important, and for other people it's not important at all, right? And this is where we're at in society. So what we have here are some simple rules, some simple guidelines to follow just to help you. These are just a couple of things, not all encompassing, but they'll get you on the right track, or they'll at least give you a kind of basis of what to do or how to eat. So the first is to limit food from boxes, bags, aluminum, and other packaged goods. So this is processed foods, essentially, right? And I feel like this has been stated enough, but just to reiterate, anything that comes in a bag or has been processed in some way has had some of its nutrients removed. Not only that, you're most likely not going to get fiber from that. And again, we talked about fiber and its importance in cleaning out your body and clearing out your intestines, especially if you're eating foods that are high in fats or things like meat. This is why red meat can be very bad for a diet, because it doesn't break down enough to actually clean out your entire intestine. So if your whole meal was mashed potatoes and meat, there's really nothing to move it through. So yeah, some of it will move through, but some of it is gonna probably get stuck, right? So limit processed foods. Eat raw fruit and vegetables. So again, this is why that is important. These are fiber. The more raw they are, the better for your intestinal health, the more nutrients they will hold, and the better impact they're gonna have on your overall wellness. That said, if you're cooking, you can still cook these, and some of them are, easier and still retain a lot of the nutrients. But something that I like to do is adding the vegetables to the very end. So only cooking them for maybe 5 minutes so that they're softer, but they're not mushy, and you don't lose a lot of the nutrients. So something to consider. Alcohol, cigarettes, drugs to a minimum. So each of these plays its own role in health and nutrition, and we're not going to go into how all these impact your body. But in general, limiting the consumption of any drug that drastically changes your overall physiology. So alcohol, for instance, seeps into almost every organ in your body. So it is one of the most prolific drugs that we engage in, but it can also be one of the most harmful because you do have pretty much infinite access to it. I mean, you can drink yourself to death if that is indeed what you want to do. If you just want to keep drinking, you can do that. So to a minimum, try to space it out. Give your body time to recover so that it does not become reliant on those substances. Drink clear, non-artificially colored beverages. So drinking clear beverages, just as a general rule, try to find things that have not been colored. This is difficult. There's a lot of things that have been colored, especially if it comes, again, in a package of some kind. Did you have a question?
The cranberry juice, is it artificially colored? Maybe.
But it is.
Maybe.
It could be.
This
I would
filtered water, cranberry juice, vegetable concentrate. It says vegetable. Or vegetable, as you say. I'm
Yeah.
Jamaican. So vegetables,
Yeah.
You were intentional in not bringing red dye number 5 here today.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. And but yeah, the clearer the beverage, more than likely the better it will be for you overall. So try to find things that are not colored. Even things like Gatorade, despite having electrolytes and things like that, are usually artificially colored, and that has a significant impact, or can have a significant impact, I should say. And then we have a couple that are really unrelated to nutrition, but impact your ability to process foods. Things like exercise. Exercise is very important for your overall metabolism, but also for your overall function. So we talked earlier about your arteries, and somebody was asked the question about how you can clear those out. So exercise is one of those ways. So again, what exercise really does is it puts your body into a state of stress, so it increases your blood pressure, and it's going to move that blood faster and harder through your arteries, through your veins, things like that. So exercise is hugely important. Not only that, it starts a lot of different physiological processes that will help you sleep better, that will help you digest your food better, that will help you go into a parasympathetic state. So that's the rest and digest state versus the fight or flight state.
Does it have to be a particular kind of exercise?
Like rigorous versus a walk.
Or calisthenics? Strength.
So are you saying that does it need to be strenuous exercise for it to have an impact?
Cardio versus strength training or anything like that?
Okay, great question. So movement itself is important. And a lot of times, even when it comes to the word exercise, a lot of times I try to change the word from exercise to movement because when you hear the word exercise, a lot of time it deters people. We're thinking, like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to be there with all those folks looking at me. I don't know how to lift this equipment. But at home, there are things that you can do. So movement itself is good. Now, pertaining to strength training versus cardio exercise. So now here's the thing about it. Doing cardio is good. But when you do cardio, you're releasing cortisol. So excessive cardio all the time, especially if you are in a state where you're trying to do weight management or weight reduction, after you get beyond a certain point, it actually starts to do the opposite, because we just talked about cortisol. Excessive cortisol does what? It holds on to fat and it's a storage mechanism. So what actually happens is to help with movement and also through the blood and even blood sugar, it's weight, lifting weights and building muscles. That's very important. So a lot of times we start to negate the muscle building portion when we are exercising, right? I don't want to lift weights. I don't want to look like that. I want to be But the muscles help with all of what we're talking about. When you're eating, the muscles, you're not going to store the fat, and it can slowly help to metabolize throughout the day versus that fast metabolism. The muscles help with pulling sugar, which is the glucose, in, so it's not staying inside the blood for an excessively long period of time. So that's why if anyone has diabetes, they usually say right after you eat to do what? To take a walk and move, because then you can bring all that sugar out. So those are some great ways in order for not just restoring like health, but movement itself is good, but lifting weights and building muscle mass is just as important as the cardiovascular exercises that we do. And I don't know, you want me to take care of these last one? Alrighty, cool. So the recreational self-care every day, that also is an important aspect where you're taking care, like we're just busy. Let's just be real. How many of you like take at least 5 to 10 minutes out of your day to just be you? That's not taking care of anybody else. That's not taking care of business. That's not taking care of your work or your job, but just something for yourself. Raise your hands. Cool. What are some of the things that you guys do that's your me time? That's your self-care. Go ahead, ma'am.
Journaling, just getting my thoughts on paper.
Love it. Love it. Anyone else? Reading? Perfect. A bubble bath? He was like, listen, y'all not going to stress me out. Epsom salts and everything. Go ahead, ma'am. I just lay on my bed under my weighted blanket. Under the weighted blanket. Yes. Anyone else? I take a nap. A nap? Yes, right? Take a nap. Restoring, all of that. Anyone else?
I do like just a pause, like just to do some breathing or just to not overthink, so pause my mind.
Yes. Intentionally pausing your mind, which is a technique that I actually have, which is called a pause technique. Actually, Dr. J and I both have pause techniques, and they're different versions of it. But all of that is so important because as we go through our day, we're just going. And part of even like when we're thinking about mindful eating, just taking a pause, which is what we just did, because we realize that when we're eating, we're just, all right, next. But when we take that time, like how many chews we're supposed to do? At least 20? I think we got like 5 in, right? So even that, to really taste the food and to really experience it. Because as soon as the food, before your food even hits your mouth, your body starts to release its juice in anticipation. It starts to release its enzymes. And the enzymes start from the mouth. That's why you guys, you ate the grape, and I'm pretty sure you got that burst of this like juices flowing. And then the enzymes in your stomach start to release and get ready to process. But when you're just going, you're not even getting a chance to really enjoy and for it to break it down and get all the different layers of what's going on. And that's portion of just like slowing down. That's a portion of pausing. That's a portion of taking the time out. Even when you're busy, even if you can try to do this for one meal out of your day, do a mindful eating, even if it's just one meal. It might not be able to be doing at work, but maybe when you get home, you can try. Imagine how you'd feel if you'd be able to just slow down for just one out of your meals a day to get that mindful eating. Now, we're going to talk about, Dr. J is going to go over this beautiful rainbow of eating the rainbow, which goes ahead with when you're asking about reversing some of those arteries and reversing some of the things. Some of the data out there is showing that plant-based really has been able to reduce cholesterol, reduce some of the the different anti-inflammatories that goes ahead and causes some clog in the arteries. Now, we're not, and like when Dr. J and I were talking about and putting this together, we're not gonna tell you that when you leave out of here, you don't eat any more meat, don't do this, don't do that. No, it's just really putting a balance to life, and then keeping in mind that you want to try to move towards, like, a plant, incorporating it in your diet. I mean, a lot of us don't. We don't on a regular basis, but just being mindful and just slowly incorporating it inside our diets so that we can move towards a healthier version of ourselves and help us to reduce stress. Alrighty, so Dr. J is gonna help us reduce the rainbow. Go ahead, ma'am.
To that note, I've kind of been on a journey for about the past 10 years with my eating and changing and seeing what works. And I find that sometimes if it's just once a week or once a day, try it for one meal, a different style of meal. More fruit and vegetables or more plants for one meal. It can be breakfast, like oatmeal, instead of eggs and bacon, or an apple with your cereal.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting to right now is eating very diverse, because what we're realizing is that there's no set structure of foods that we can give to any one person and it will work for them, like ubiquitously, right? Everybody is so different. Your body is going to respond differently. It's going to need different nutrients. It's going to have different deficiencies in nutrients. So the best thing we can do is eat very diverse. Don't eat the same thing every day. If you eat yogurt for breakfast every day, switch it up. Try to figure out different foods that you can do. And as you were saying, try different ethnicities of foods because they use different spices, which hold different chemicals in them that your body will need, different metals that your body will need. So all these different things are very important. Even with meat, eat meat, eat whatever you want, have a dessert, but make sure that you balance it. It's not a dessert every single meal. It's not eating meat for every single meal, right? It's finding ways to diversify your diet so that includes this whole rainbow. And another way that you can think about this is each of these colors represents different chemicals, different nutrients that your body is intaking. So things that are green tend to be higher in things like nitrogen and phosphorus and other things like that, potassium, because that's what they need. That's what produces that green color. While you have other foods that are, more light green than yellows, oranges, reds, these all have different nutrients in them, all different nutrients. So when you do try to eat diverse, try to find different colored foods. And again, eating raw is really important, or at least trying to eat as raw as possible for these foods, but making sure that you diversify it. So I like to try to make my dishes a rainbow, whatever I cook. I cook a lot of different kinds of foods. I actually grew up in Japan, so I tend to make a lot of Japanese foods. So what I do is I add a lot of different vegetables to that. So I'll add like a red bell pepper, I'll add a green bell pepper, then I'll use something like edamame beans or lima beans, and give it a couple of different colorings along with the base of the dish, which is typically potatoes and a curry that I'll make. But you can add this to any dish that you make. It'll change the flavor profile a little bit, but now you're adding those nutrients and stuff and you're diversifying what you are intaking. So as a general guide, try to eat as many different colored foods as you can.
And with that, okay, we have a quick question. No, we were going to close it out. We're going to have you take us home.
Yeah, so I'm big on raw fruits and vegetables, like I love them, but the one thing I have found with like raw vegetables is it tends to create like this gas buildup, like where it's like hitting my rib cage a little bit, and so it sometimes gets hard, like I like eating a kava sometimes, I get bowls with a lot of raw vegetables and stuff like that, but I realize that happens. Is there something that could help? I know like there's digestive enzymes. Is that something, or is that normal for that to happen? I just kind of wanted to understand like how that is, specifically with the raw vegetables.
Okay. I would think that the best way is to now determine, you're going to have to now start separating and determining which one of the raw vegetables are causing this. Because when you're eating like a variety, at times you don't know what's interacting with you and what's interacting with your enzymes or what's not being broken down, because all of that gas we talked about, that's in there, you're probably not processing it. And so the bacteria is there, and the byproduct of the bacteria is gas, and then the byproduct of that is pain for you. So what it would require is trying to determine which one of those is causing that. And then that just might not be something that either one, your body can tolerate, or two, you might need to you might need to cook it or even break down some of its enzymes. Because sometimes our bodies doesn't have all the enzymes in order to break down this particular structure. So either you'll cook it so that it can be partially broken down so your body can do the rest. That's one way. So like Dr. J says, putting it in last, right? You're not going to cook it all the way down till it's mush, but maybe you can cook it until like a good 5 minutes and it'll start to break down process, and then your body can do the rest. Does that help? All righty.
And just to add too, so our gut microbiome, so all the bacteria, all the viruses, all the microorganisms that live in our gut. To be clear, we are an ecosystem. You are an ecosystem. If you do not eat that food regularly enough, you do not have the bacteria population to break that food down effectively. So now you're going to have other effects to that because your body is not as efficient in breaking that food down, and that causes fermentation and other things because it sits in your gut too long. So it may be that you have an intolerance, but it also may be that you don't eat it regularly enough to actually have a colonization of that bacteria that will break it down. And this is why it's important to also eat diverse diets, because then you get a broad range of bacteria that can help you break that down. And these bacteria also move into your intestines too. So they start in your gut, they move into your intestines, they help break down the food as well.
I tried to eat, like, it's Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, and I try to eat them, but that's what happens, and so it makes it hard to.
Those are natural fermenters.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
broccolis and the cabbage family. Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah, they're gonna produce gas. That's what they do. Yeah.
Alrighty, well,
I found with cabbage, don't cook it down so much, and it will prevent that. Because sometimes we do cook our greens all the way down, and become too soft. And sometimes with cabbage, it's already water. You don't need to add water to it. But a lot of people add water and then become mush, and it's already started breaking down. And that may give you the gas situation.
Okay, well, that's the end of our presentation.